Thank you for joining Jeff Schmidt from the Planning Office and myself, Andy Anderson, for this planning preview session for the October 5th meeting, which will be held at Carnegie Town Hall. Jeff, I understand, I have a quick question before we dive into the agenda items. The review of Shaped Places is now going on, it's underway, and I think it's been moved to 2040.
Correct.
And in the review process, have you found anything significant or any major changes that you've needed to be done?
We try to update our comprehensive plan about every 5 years, and so we were out to the year 2035, and again, this is going to sound weird, but back in 2010, we were out to the year 2035. So when we started looking at the year 2035, it really became evident to us that we had enough land area in the city of Sioux Falls to get to the year 2040. Okay, and again, follow along with me, people. What happened was we had this, what they call it, the Great Recession. Okay, and there was enough land in the city of Sioux Falls that we have 5 more years worth of inventory out there. So when we updated it, all we were really doing is checking our figures and checking to see if the data was still correct. And it is, everything's still there, but we have enough land available in the 2035 plan to get us to 2040.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And again, that's why it's planning briefing, and you found it right away. You're just like, there's just enough land there. The water, the sewer, the roads, the infrastructure that we had in the 2035 plan gets us to the year 2040. So we were like, oh, okay, that's a good update. We didn't change the policies. We didn't change anything else. We just were
recognizing the infrastructure is there as well as the land, right?
Yes, everything. And it was really kind of interesting. And so we had updates in May to the citizens, and we kind of opened it up and let people look at it to see if there's anything else that was really available. We've kind of talked about it with the planning commissioners a couple of times just to let it be available. And then we're going to have public hearings coming up here in kind of October, November, December at all of the different boards and commissions. It will go to Planning Commission, will go to City Council, will go to Minnehaha County and Lincoln County, because we're in 2 different counties, and then it will be become effective at the end of the year.
And you really do your best, in my opinion, you certainly do your best for those public hearings to give everybody an opportunity to attend
absolutely.
one. I mean, there's several days, times where you
Correct.
present the information to the public, and typically it's easy to find when those are being held.
Absolutely. And we'll post the information on our city's website. You know, and people always ask, I mean, we'll do press releases too, folks. I mean, we're on our city link, we're putting it on the city's website, but it's not a very interesting topic. I mean, the media is not going to pick it up. They're not going to run with this. They're not going to do a lot of stories. But I mean, anybody that's interested, it's on cities, siouxfalls.org.
Or they can always call the office.
They can call the office.
And find out exactly when they're being
they can
held.
come down and we can show it to them. We can go over it. But it's not a real dynamic issue for people to follow. But it's there, and we'd really like people to be interested in it.
Yeah,
so thank you,
great.
Andy.
It's great to be involved in those discussions.
Yeah.
Well, all right, as always, we're going to touch on some agenda items again for the October 5th Planning Commission meeting. And please pay attention to the items. If you have any questions, feel free to call the planning office with those questions, as sometimes items do get removed from the agenda. So before you do go attend the meeting, maybe give them a quick call to make sure that item you're interested in is still on. Let's dive right in. First, we have a rezone from RD2 and Live Work to the RD2 Townhome and Live Work for allowed uses at East 57th and South Sycamore, excuse me.
This area of town in the south central, southeast part of town is very dynamic right now. There's a lot of activity down there. If you haven't been down there recently, you'll notice that there's a new Harrisburg Elementary School. There's a lot of housing. This area at 57th and West is actually a landowner's property, and the landowner is redeveloping it. It's north of 69th Street on the west side of Sycamore, so between 57th and 69th Street. And again, I always say this, that's why planning preview is very beneficial, because you'll be able to see the exhibits. But he's already rezoned it to twin homes and live work, but he wants to balance it out a little bit. He's going to switch some of his land to live work and some of it to RD2, as he's kind of seeing the trends in his neighborhood change.
So it really isn't, I mean, it is a rezone, but it's basically the same zoning that's in place. He's
Already.
just making a transition of how it's being utilized.
Right, yes.
And we have another rezone from Ag to RS Single Family located at 7820 South Brandy Avenue.
This is 85th and Western.
Okay.
Southeast corner of 85th and Western, there's a street, Brandy, and there's one remaining parcel down there that's agricultural, and they're going to rezone it for single-family houses.
Gosh, it's even amazing how developed 85th Street is becoming.
Correct. So, and in that area, very few remaining undeveloped properties like this ag, and so it's important to see single family go in there.
All right. And we have another rezone from S1 General Institutional to C3 Commercial located at 1200 East 3rd Street.
Very interesting project and property. Would like to hear some citizen input on this. I know they've had some neighborhood meetings. This is on North Cliff and 3rd Street. This is the old Franklin Elementary School, the Joe Foss Alternative School. When Franklin closed, Joe Foss moved in. Joe Foss moved over to Axtell. It's been sitting vacant for a while. So it's zoned S, institutional, because it was a school. Now they'd like to rezone that to C3 commercial. It's along Cliff Avenue. Staff is really waiting more to find out what's happening at the public hearing and what the citizens are saying about this property and what it should be before we make our decisions. We have some concerns about the commercial property there because it is so close to single family, and it's not a vacant property. So.
But it's been in existence for so long that it's, the location of it is unique.
Right.
However, it's
very
really
unique.
developed around
it's
it.
And it's so developed around there. And if it was a vacant property, it might be a little bit easier to develop, but it's not vacant. And so there's all these moving parts. So it's going to have a public hearing.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It'll be a fun one to watch, see how it progresses. Now we're going to switch gears and go to a conditional use permit for the WM1 form to be located in an area where traffic will be from a local or residential street located at the northwest corner of West 2nd Street and North Harlem Avenue. You need to explain that one a little to me because I
even had to check with staff on this one. I'm like, now what's this one again? We have so few conditional uses left. But it's a conditional use because they are not coming in from an arterial street or a collector street. They're coming in from a local or residential street. This, Andy, you may remember, is at Madison Street in Kiwanis. Back there was all these vacant properties along the Big Sioux River, and they rezoned them to industrial a while ago. But you come in on 2nd and Harlem, and you have to come in on a local residential street. So since their truck traffic is coming in that way, it requires them to do a conditional use this way. It's already been rezoned for these industrial warehouses, but they need a conditional use to have one more public hearing.
Well, and the access is so unique in that area.
I
mean, you're really limited to how much you can change it and what you can do, and you can't be landlocked, so you have to figure something out.
You have to figure something out. So what are the conditions going to be?
Right.
It doesn't really say what it's going to be, but you kind of start to have those discussions at the public hearing.
Well, and that's really the benefit of conditional use permits is that, first of all, you have the public hearing, but also you can establish conditions to keep people happy and, really both parties it's beneficial for.
And we'll have to look at it from both sides. There's always two sides to every story. There's the owner of the property and the adjacent property owners, and you don't want to be so restrictive on a property owner's rights. So you try to figure out everything that's going on, but you have the public hearing and you look through it.
Right.
So.
Well, we've had a few of these recently. Another conditional use for an electronic message center sign in a residential zoning. This is located at 1800 South Valley View Road.
There's two of these in a row, and like Andy already mentioned, we've had a couple of these recently. This one on Valley View Road is an existing church. These are all existing churches, but they're replacing their static signs that advertise their churches to the digital message signs that read, and those require conditional uses when they're adjacent to single-family houses.
And you do see this transition happening in a lot of churches.
They're
able to get the information to the public so much easier.
Right.
And the next item is similar, and that one's located at 235 North Prairie Avenue.
And the ones that have worked pretty well and that we haven't had a lot of concerns and issues at public hearings is when they're, as we talked about in the very first conditional use, when they're on an arterial or a collector street. When they're more residential, then we have more concerns. So,
All right, and then we have an alternative site plan for decrease in the landscape and buffer yard located at 901 North Main Avenue.
This is up on North Main, up on top of the hill, and it's an existing vacant property that they'd like to build some single-family homes. They may be twin homes, fourplexes, I can't remember exactly, but you'll see on the exhibits when we show them. But they are going to be next to existing single-family homes, and they need to have required buffer yards to the north and the south, and they can't get all their landscaping in. So based upon how they've laid it out, they're coming to the Planning Commission to request a different way to do it. Okay, it sounds a little different, but with our new zoning code, if they can't do it all and they're saying, no, we're not going to put our landscaping in, then they can go to a Board of Adjustment. This is saying we're going to do it, but we're going to do it differently. And really why they're saying that is because they're on a steep hill and steep terrain, and it doesn't make sense for them to put in the typical berm.
Right.
Because they're already on a hill.
Well, and that's the benefit of shaped places, in my
Correct.
opinion. It really gives them the flexibility of, if you had 3 large pine trees, you wouldn't want to tear those out
Right.
and have to put up maybe what else was required. And so I think that's really
And that's
the
exactly
positive
this
part of shaped
here
places.
too. We're like, what type of trees would you
Right.
want to put in? Because the different trees are really going to help the homeowners versus just the land area.
Right. Well, and just the way the land lays, like you
Correct.
said.
Yeah.
Well, that looks like it's it
Yes.
for this October 5th
Fifth meeting.
planning session meeting. Again, please feel free to call anybody at the planning office, 367-8888, if you have any questions regarding these items. Again, sometimes it can change, so please check in before attending the meeting, but we would love to see you there. 6 o'clock, Carnegie Town Hall, October 5th. Thanks for joining us.